Okay, good evening. We are going to take a look now at chapter 12. Again, I'm going to follow through your textbook and try to emphasize the areas that you need to know, what you need to focus on. There's a lot of activities here that you can do on your own. Uh, so let's take a look at chapter 12. Okay. Um, and it begins on page 351, 350, 351, and it has to do with sports, el deporte y el bienestar, well-being. So it talks about health issues, and sports. A lot of this vocabulary you should be familiar with, okay? Um, this is an advanced level class, so hopefully a lot of the vocabulary will be reviewed for you, but make sure you go through the activities. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start out with comunicación, and there's some basic stuff here. Give me a second so I can. Um, and the idea is here is uh, they want to let us know, how do we wish somebody good luck. So again, you're going to have a small exercise on your chapter 12 test on this. This is very, very basic Spanish, but again, you can go through this. But normally, if you want to wish somebody good luck, you just say buena suerte. Uh, okay, you could just say suerte. A lot of this is just commonsensical. But again, if you're not regularly speaking the language, uh, this very basic information is given to you. So this is how you could wish somebody good luck. Mucha suerte. You could tell somebody suerte is feminine. Or you could desire or wish somebody luck. Te deseo mucha suerte. You would use te if it's a friend or family member, someone that you're intimate with, or le if it's somebody you don't know. Le deseo mucha suerte. So take a look at this. Again, just I would point out here with le deseo mucha suerte or te deseo mucha suerte. Notice that they don't say yo te deseo. Again, you do not need the subject pronouns every time you make a sentence, you utter a sentence or write a sentence in Spanish. The verb tells you the deseo. I know that means I wish. Okay, it doesn't mean you wish, it means I wish. So I don't need to say yo te or yo le. Again, this is very confusing to the English speaker because they expect that subject pronoun to be there. We desire. You don't need to say nosotros te deseamos. Just te deseamos. Te deseamos tells me it's we. And I point this out because it may get confusing for you if you see a sentence starting with an indirect or direct object pronoun. Okay. What else do they want us to know here? Since this unit has to do with sports and well-being, if you want to encourage somebody, okay, if you want to encourage somebody like at a sports event, you might say "ánimo, ánimo," give it all you got, keep your spirits up, or "adelante, go for it," or "sí se puede." Again, this may appear on your exam. Hopefully, it, you'll be able to readily spot if you get a reading passage or you get somebody a listening passage and you're asked some questions that involve these terms. They're very easy, but spend a little time and take a look at them. And then they also want us to know here in comunicación, how do we wish somebody well when you're saying goodbye? Okay. And you'll often hear que te vaya bien. que te vaya bien, or that's if it's with someone you're going to use tú with, or que le or que les vaya bien if you're using usted or ustedes. Okay. You'll often hear as well que tenga or que tengas un buen día. Uh, uh, and you'll hear that also a lot. You hear this all the time in Spanish. And you could as well say que tengas un buen fin de semana, or que tengas un buen verano if you won't see them over the summer. Que tengas una buena tarde, that you have a nice afternoon if you'll be seeing them later. Very common. Um, by the way, you see vaya there. That's from the verb to go, and it's the subjunctive form, and we'll be looking at the subjunctive form of verbs a little bit later on in this presentation. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so, all right. What else do we have here? Okay. Give me a second. Uh, okay. Okay. Next, there's a few terms again to giving people advice about healthy living. Okay. Uh, uh, okay. And so let's look at a few expressions they give us here. To say you don't, to say you have to do something, or you can use this phrase IK. IK. Literally, it's necessary that. Okay. If it's not necessary that, then you say no IK. Okay. So let's take a look. This can be translated as it's necessary to do something or it's not necessary. So let's take a look. Para mantenerse sano, to maintain yourself healthy or to stay healthy, hay que comer bien. Okay. Uh, you have to eat well, or it is necessary to eat well. Okay. Here's a negative one. No hay que levantar pesas. It's not necessary to lift weights para mantenerse en forma, to stay in shape. Okay. Uh, okay, so let's take a look. And then here's a little exercise. You can just go through this again. Very simple phrase. I don't think there's a whole lot more we can say about it. Okay. Again, you would use the infinitive with IK. Hay que comer, it's necessary to eat. Oh, no hay que comer, it's not necessary to eat. So just use I, K, and the infinitive of the verb to show that something, it's necessary to do something. Okay. Let's move on here then to vocabulario. And there's a lot of vocabulary here. Let me see. And the vocabulary, they start out with deportes, sports vocabulary. Okay, so please just take a look through this. A lot of these terms you've had in the past, but just to refresh or maybe learn some new ones. Andar en bicicleta, ir en bicicleta, to ride a bike. Hacer alpinismo, to climb mountains. Jugar voleibol, to play volleyball. The different sports. Andar en patineta is one way of saying to go skateboarding. Levantar pesas is to lift weights. Jugar fútbol americano. Football, just plain football in Spanish is soccer. I'll let you take a look through these uh, vocabulary words, okay? La natación is swimming, the sport of swimming. Nadar is the verb to swim. Okay. Know the implements you would use in sports and different sports activities. These are fair game on your exam, and they're simple. Bicicleta, bike. The helmet you would wear when riding your bike is el casco. El casco. La raqueta, racket. Pelota, ball. Pesas are your weights. Los tenis are your sneakers. La piscina, okay, is the pool. I mean, this is all basic vocabulary, and make sure you're familiar with it. There are different activities involving individuals and sports. Just read through these. Get yourself comfortable again with the vocabulary um, that is associated with different sports. Okay, a competition, for example. Okay, you're in sports is a competencia. Okay, the verb to win is ganar. So this person that they're talking about, Kilian, ha ganado, he has won. Okay, your present perfect tense, él ha ganado. So take a look uh, through this just to refresh. A lot of this is basic vocabulary. Okay, what else? What other kind of vocabulary do we have? We have la salud y el bienestar. Again, this will be on your exam. There's not a lot of vocabulary questions, but this is, particularly if you're continuing on in Spanish, and even if you're not, it's good to know this vocabulary dealing with, if you're in a situation where there's no one who speaks English or you're in a Spanish-speaking country, it's good to be able to describe your physical state, or if you're uh, ill. So here are again um, different words associated with health. So we might, if you go, when you go to the doctor's office, they want to know your height, la altura, your weight, el peso, your blood pressure, la presión y la temperatura. Those are three things they take, right, in la consulta, in the doctor's office, generally the first things that they do. Okay, it's just basic terms. Um, um, Note here's the verb medir, to measure. Here the enfermera, the nurse, is measuring the height of the patient there. Um, uh, and again, just basic vocabulary. Subir de peso is to gain weight. So you may go to the doctor and notice you weigh more. And so you would say, yo subí de peso, gain some weight, or you could lose weight. Bajar de peso. That's how you describe that. All right. Again, I'll let you look through some of this basic vocabulary. Some other good vocabulary is here right in the box. And so let's take a look at this. This is on page 359. Again, I'm just going sequentially, chronologically in your book. La enfermedad is an illness. Symptoms are los síntomas. It's masculine. Quejas, a complaint. Pain, dolor, very important verb to know. Dolor. And then there's the verb doler. That's when something aches you or hurts you. Is it aches you? It causes you pain. It's doler is the verb, but an actual pain is dolor. Okay. Um, Doler is just, it functions just like gustar. You use the indirect object pronouns with it, just like you did with gustar. Remember, with gustar, we didn't use the subject pronouns. We don't say yo gusto, tú gustas, él gusta. We never say that. We use the indirect object pronouns. Me gusta, te gusta. He likes is le gusta. She likes le gusta. We like is not nosotros gustamos, it's nos gusta. So you're going to use those same pronouns, me, te, le, nos, and for they, les, when you use doler. I just wanted you to see that. So here's a question. Te duele la cabeza? That's how you'd ask somebody if their head hurt, for example. Does your head hurt? Te duele. Notice doler is also a stem changing verb. The O goes to UE. And you might answer if you don't have any, if your head does not ache, you would say no. Pero, and in this case, me duele mucho el estómago. But my stomach hurts me. Okay. Here's another one. They're asking a person in the usted form, le duelen los pies? Literally, do your feet hurt you? Sí, me duelen los pies y las piernas. Yes, my feet and my legs hurt me. Again, just some quick vocabulary. You might want to just take a quick look at it. This is language that has to do with medicine. El cambio, change. La cuarentena, a quarantine. La fiebre, fever, it's feminine. La mascarilla, this all applies to what we just went through with COVID. The face mask. La pandemia, pandemic. La sangre, blood. La tos. Tos is feminine. El virus. So take a look at that. And to be allergic to, tener alergia a. Okay. Tomar los datos, to get someone's information. You go into the doctor's office, they measure you, etc. They check your pressure. That would be tomar los datos. So I spent quite a bit of time on this. Just go through it and make sure you're familiar with this. Okay. And here they do a little conversion from kilogram into kilograms, from pounds, and from feet and inches into centimeters. For whatever reason, the United States never adopted the metric system. I thought they were going to do it 50 years ago, but we never did. But they just show you how to convert. And in most of your Spanish-speaking countries, you're going to be using the metric system. Okay, I think that's about it for the vocabulary and the vocabulary on well-being in medicine. Okay, now let's get to estructura and specifically to grammar. Okay, now the good news is the grammar is going to be a repeat of our last lesson, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on it. It's using the present perfect tense, okay? But it's using the present perfect tense with object pronouns, okay? So what is the present perfect tense again? It is the verb to have and the past participle. So in English, it would be with the verb to eat, I have eaten. Now, if I want to use an object pronoun in English, I would say, let's say I've eaten the dinner. Okay, so I would say I have eaten the dinner. If I don't want to say the word dinner and I want to swipe it out for an object pronoun, I would say I have eaten it. That's your direct object pronoun. I have eaten it. Or I could say I have seen the children. Now, if I don't want to say children, I want to swap them out for the object pronoun. I could say, I have seen them. So that's what we're going to learn to do in this particular exercise. It's very simple. So if I want to, so we would, when we do this, first of all, when we form the present perfect tense, we use the verb haber, the verb to have. You need to know how to conjugate it in the present tense. We just all learned it. Yo, tú, has, él, ha. Nosotros hemos, and then ellos han. So we need to be able to, and then we need to know how to form the present, the past participle. And it's just the stem and then ending. Okay. If it's an adverb, we put ado. Okay. For practicar, it's practicado. So I practiced would be yo he practicado. simple. If it's an ER or IR verb, we get the stem and we add on ido, ido. For example, vivir, yo he vivido. So it's the verb to have conjugated, the verb haber have conjugated in the present tense, and then the uh, uh, past participle. And you should all know how to form the past participles. Okay, we did this last week. And now we're going to use it with a with an object pronoun. And that's what they're teaching us. So I could say, I practice the piano. Yo he practicado el piano. Or now I want to use an object pronoun and say, I practiced it. I would say, yo lo he practicado. Okay, and so we're going to now be placing our object pronouns directly before the conjugated verb. We learned this way back in chapter 6. We always place the object pronouns where? Before the conjugated verb. Okay, so if I want to say I practice it, I would say yo lo he practicado. And that's basically what they're teaching us in this unit. And they give you some examples at the beginning. They he or she practiced it. She or he knew him. They won it, whatever it was. Notice that your object pronouns always go where? Before the conjugated verb. What's the conjugated verb when you have the present perfect tense? It's the verb haber. So this is a no-brainer. You just put your object pronoun before the conjugated verb haber. So again, they refer you back to Estructura 6.3 when we learn how to the placement of object pronouns. They always come before the conjugated verb. So Yulimar lo ganó. Yulimar won it. We always put the object pronoun before the conjugated verb. When we have the present perfect tense, which is what you're going to have on your exam, and we want to say Yulimar has won it, where do we put the object pronoun? It's before the conjugated verb. So Yulimar lo ha ganado. Very simple, not too much more there. Okay. All right. Let's see. We also learned that when we have two verbs present, and I'm not talking about the present perfect tense, but if you go back to chapter 6, and we want to say Yulimar wants to win it. So he wants to win it. So we have an infinitive. Now we get options as to where we can put our object pronoun. It's always correct to put the object pronoun before the conjugated verb. So Yulimar lo quiere ganar. So he wants to win it. Or because we have two verbs, we can attach the object pronoun to the end of the infinitive. Yulimar quiere ganarlo. And that's what we've done here. Well, this holds over when we're using the present perfect tense, is what you'll be using on your exam. So it says here we've got two verbs, querer and ganar. So we want to say Yulimar has wanted to win it. Has wanted to win it. So how do we say has wanted? Yulimar ha querido. So ganar. So he has wanted to win it. We could put the it before the conjugated verb. Yulimar lo ha querido ganar. Yulimar has wanted to win it. We don't get too many examples of this, but in case one were to crop up on your exam, you'll see how to use it. Now we're going to get an option because we have actually an extra verb. We have three verbs really going on here, but we've got the present. Okay, I'm sorry. We've got our present perfect tense here, ha querido. So we can also say it this way using the object pronoun. Yulimar ha querido ganar and we can attach it to the end of the infinitive of our second verb. Yulimar ha querido ganarlo. Okay, you won't get many instances of that. You're basically going to be seeing on your exam, you're going to just get the pure present perfect tense. Okay, the pure present. Yulimar ha ganado. So Yulimar lo ha ganado, and you will always put your object pronoun before the conjugated verb haber, or in this case, a. Okay. Um, take a look through this. And what I stated here, I'll just go back quickly, also goes for the other object pronouns, the indirect object pronouns. Okay. Uh, um, if you want to say Yulimar gave him something, you would say Yulimar has given him something. Yulimar le ha dado. Again, you would put the indirect object pronoun before the conjugated verb. So, and if it's reflexive, like bañarse, to bathe. So if you want to say Yulimar has bathed, Yulimar se ha bañado. So your pronouns, whether reflexive, indirect object, or object pronouns, always are placed before the conjugated verb. And when you're using the present perfect, your conjugated verb is haber, so it will go before the conjugated haber form. That's basically all they're saying here. You can look at some of these examples. You will have a few short questions on this on your chapter 12 test. Okay, take a look at this section. And I tell you to go through all these exercises on your own. Take a look at los deportes en Colombia y Venezuela. There will be a few readings on your exam, and there will be one like this, and you'll be asked questions about it. It's good, again, to be familiar with the vocabulary when you go to take your exam. Okay. Let me see. And that's on page 366, the section, that Cultura section between Colombia and Venezuela. All right, let's continue on with estructura or grammar and go to page 368. Let me see here. 368, there's another area of grammar. 12.2. Again, we just learned this tense. We're going to be using the present progressive tense again. You know all what that is. We have it in English. I am talking. It's two verbs, the verb to be conjugated, and then the present participle or ing form of the verb. I am talking right now. I am speaking. I am teaching. You are listening. All right. So in Spanish, the verb to be will be estar. We have to conjugate it, and then we have to form the present participle, which is the stem of the verb. If it's an AR verb, it's ando is our ending. Okay, right? Ganar, ganando. And for ER and IR verbs, you would get the stem and eran yendo, viviendo, comiendo. Real basic stuff. You should have this clearly in your mind. We just learned it. Now, what they're adding on here is, again, the use of object pronouns when we're using the present progressive tense, okay? And I think you can see before they even really teach the lesson here how we do this. All these verbs here are in the present progressive form. La está recibiendo, la está anunciando, lo está ganando. Okay, so again, where do we place the object pronoun when we're speaking or writing with the present progressive tense? Well, you should already know that. Your object pronouns are always come before the conjugated verb. What is the conjugated verb when you have the present progressive tense? It's estar. So that's why the object pronouns are always placed before the verb estar. That's the way it's done. There can't be anything between them. They're put immediately before the conjugated verb. La está recibiendo en Peking. Somebody's receiving it in Peking. La está anunciando. It is being announced in wherever. Okay. Lo está ganando. It is being won. Okay. So, and again, let's take a look at the box a little bit lower down here. Okay. On page 368. Okay. And again, I'm just following chronologically through the book. And so you always place the object pronoun before the conjugated verb. So you're going to have some of these where you're going to have to add in an object pronoun and show where it is placed. Okay, now, again, there is another placement rule here, okay? As I told you, it's always correct to put the object pronoun before the conjugated verb. With the present progressive tense, that would mean it's always correct to put it before the verb estar. But with the present progressive tense, you have an option in Spanish. You can attach the object pronoun, the indirect object pronoun, or even a reflexive pronoun, to the end of the present participle. So if you want to say that Nadal is winning it, like the game, Nadal lo está ganando. Perfectly correct. Or you have a new placement rule with the present progressive tense. You can attach it to the end of the present participle. Nadal está ganándolo. And when you add the object to the present participle, when you're writing it, you need to add in an accent mark. The accent shifts over. Okay, from the second last syllable to the third. Okay. All right. And I think that's it. Okay. And so here Francisco is shaving, afeitar. So I could say Francisco se está afeitando. He's shaving himself. He's shaving. Or Francisco está afeitándose. Again, you could put your object pronoun, whether it's a reflexive pronoun, indirect object pronoun, or direct object pronoun, either before the verb estar, or you can attach it onto the end of the present participle. Okay. Elena se está bañando, or Elena está bañándose. Here, Gloria's getting up. So despertarse, these are reflexive verbs. Gloria se está despertando, or Gloria está despertándose. That's basically it. Okay. All right, let me see. Okay, let's now see. Let's go take a look now at a new tense. We've actually seen this tense when we were given the commands, the formal affirmative commands with usted. We actually seen it there. And when we give a -2 command, we've also seen it there. But let's just take a look at the actual subjunctive. So in Spanish, normally we're going to be using, at least for our purposes right now, we will be using the present tense. And so let's um, compare the present tense with the subjunctive tense, our new tense. So here on page 371, there's a box. Okay, comparing the two tenses. I wish they had filled it out for you, but let's take a look and see exactly what's going on here with the present tense, what they call presente de indicativo, or just pure present tense, versus the subjunctive, the new tense we're going to learn. So the verbs in bold in para empezar are all in the to form of the present subjunctive tense. The subjunctive is used in a variety of situations, and here it is used to express a recommendation. So whenever you're recommending somebody, or you're advising somebody, or you're expressing a desire, I want this, I desire that this happens, or I recommend you do this, okay, or I'm telling you to do that. You're recommending, you're advising. I advise you to leave town. You're going to use the subjunctive. Okay, so let's take a look. You would not use the present tense. Okay, so give me a second here. And so let's see what they have to say in number 2. You can identify subjunctive forms by the vowel in the ending, just as the formal commands and negative informal commands. Both AR and ER-IR verbs use the opposite vowel. Use the examples given to complete the following chart. Okay, so what they want you to do here is, if you have an AR verb and you want to put the verb into the subjunctive, okay, and you have an AR verb, uh, so like tomar, so all of your endings will be in an A. That's all they're saying normally in the present tense, okay? Tú tomas, él toma, tomamos, ellos toman, okay? But when you put the verb in the subjunctive, you will have ease in the ending. Okay. So instead of tú tomas, it'll be tú tomes. Instead of él toma, it'll be él tome. Instead of nosotros tomamos, it'll be nosotros tomemos, E-M-O-S. And instead of ellos toman, it'll be ellos tomen, E-N. Everybody get this? So for all AR verbs, this is what will happen. Okay. Essentially, you'll have the same conjugations as in the present tense, but instead of an A in the ending, you're going to have an E. Well, for ER and IR verbs, okay, the other two categories of verbs that we have, normally in the present tense, you have E's in the present. So tu vives, es ending, okay? But in the subjunctive, you will no longer have an E, you will have now an A. So tu vivas, okay? Normally in the present tense, it's el vive, but the E will change to A, el viva. Nosotros would be vivimos, but it's going to now change to vivamos. You're going to have A endings with all ER and IR verbs. Look at comer. So it'd be tu comes in the present tense, but the E goes to A, so it's tu comas, AS ending. El come, now you have an E ending normally in the present, but it will be el coma. So that's what's going on. Nosotros comemos in the present tense, but in the subjunctive, nosotros comamos, A-M-O-S. So that's basically it. The AR verbs get E endings and the ER-IR verbs get A endings. That's the basic idea behind it. Okay. Now, normally, this is how I learned to form the subjunctive, and I think it's the best way. You take you still switch for AR verbs, you get E endings, and for ER and IR verbs, you get A endings. But I like to look at the yo conjugation, the present tense yo conjugation of the verb. Okay, and we know that in the yo conjugation of all regular verbs and many irregular, okay, what happens to what is the verb conjugation ends in an O. So you will drop the O of the yo present form conjugation, and then you will add either A endings on or E endings on. That's the way I learned how to do this, and it works well for me. So let's take a look at the verb tomar. So we know the verb tomar is an AR verb, so we're going to have E endings. Now, normally in the present tense, we would say what? Yo tomo. So if I want to form the subjunctive, I just told you drop the O of the regular present form, and I get tom. And now add on your endings. So tomar is an adverb. We add on E endings. So it's yo tome. Let's try the to form. So we would get, I would drop the O from tomo and get tom. And now I add an E ending because it's a verb. So I add an ES ending now. So tu tomes, ES. Let's do el ella. It's going to be tom again, and I just add on an E. So yo tome is the subjunctive form. Tu tomes is the to subjunctive form, and el tome is the subjunctive form. Notice that yo and the el, ella, usted form conjugate exactly the same in the subjunctive. The two does have an S ending. Okay. What about nosotros? We're going to have an E ending, so I get the tom and I add on hemos. All right, not amos, hemos, because we know that all AR verbs have an E in the ending, and it's going to be EMOS. So you could write that in EMOS. Nosotros tomemos. And finally, what about ellos or ustedes? We'll have tom, and now we're going to have an EN ending, tomen. So it's EN. So our ending here, so it's tome, tomes, tome, tomemos, and tomen, MEN ending. Let's look at comer. It's an ER verb, so it's going to have A endings. So normally in the present tense, I would say yo como. I drop the O of como, and now it's an ER verb, so I have to put an A ending. Yo coma. What about to? Comas, an AS ending. The L form will be, again, coma. Your yo form and your L form, an A form, are exactly the same. Again, we've got, for nosotros, it's an ER verb, so we're going to have an A ending, comamos. Nosotros comamos. And then finally, ellos, it's an ER verb, so we're going to have an AN ending. So ellos coman, C-O-M-A-N, coman. What about vivir? It's an IR verb. So again, it's yo vivo. I drop the O. It's an IR verb, so I'm going to have A endings, just like that, the ER verb. So it's yo viva. What about the to form? It's going to be viv as. You've got to have that S there, AS ending, and el viva. What about nosotros? Well, it's an IR verb, so it's going to have A ending. So I get vivamos, vivamos, and finally ellos vivan. It's very simple, very easy to form. The reason why I tell you to start with the yo form of the verb, the reason I tell you that is The reason I tell you that is because uh, we have a lot of irregular yo verbs, and so for example, hacer, it would be the present tense of hacer is yo hago. Okay, yo hago. So if I drop the o of hago, now I have the stem on which to form the present uh, to form the subjunctive. So now it would be, it's hacer is an er verb, so it'd be yo haga. Okay, tu hagas, él haga. So that's why I like to start with the yo present form of the verb, drop the o, and then either put my a endings on if I have an er, ir verb, or my e endings on if I have an ar verb. Okay, they give you the vos conjugations again. Again, vos is used in Argentina, and it's also used in Central America, in various regions, sometimes alongside too, and you'll see it in northern Colombia. Um, but it's good to know. Okay, now this is the main part of this lesson. Once you know how to form the subjunctive tense, you need to know when to use it. So you will not use the present tense in these situations. You're going to use the subjunctive. And you use the subjunctive in these cases when you have these phrases, esperar que. If you hope something or somebody hopes that something happens, okay, the verb used after esperar has got to be in the subjunctive. So let's take a look. Yo espero que puedas. I hope that you can come. Okay, notice poder is an er verb, but we have to put it in the subjunctive form. I hope that you can come to the party. Okay, so after the verb esperar, when you have a clause, okay, that your clause is introduced by that K, you have a new sentence with a new verb. That second verb in that new clause has got to be in the subjunctive form. And how do I, again, where does puedas come from? Well, let's take the verb poder and we look at the yo present tense form. It's yo puedo. Drop the O of yo puedo. Now you've got your base. This is two. I hope that you. So it's an ER verb. We have to put an A ending on. So it's an AS for two. So espero que tú puedas venir. Ojalá. Ojalá means I hope that, or hopefully. So again, when you have anything with hope or desire, you're going to follow that phrase with the clause, and you in your new clause, you're going to use what? The subjunctive. So ojalá. Ojalá means I hope or hopefully. Ojalá que tú puedas venir. Not tú puedes, but tú puedas. You don't use the present tense. You use the subjunctive tense. Okay. Pedir que. Whenever you request something, okay, so you request something and then you get a K and a new clause. That verb in the new clause has got to be in the subjunctive. All right. So, ellos están pidiendo. They are requesting that. Uh, so they are requesting that we work in Bolivia. Que nosotros trabajemos. Okay. All right, trabajemos. If the verb is trabajar, so it's going to have an EMOS ending. And you would not say trabajamos because whenever you use pedir que, okay, when you request something, you ask for something, and there's a secondary clause, it has to be in the subjunctive. All right. So if I want you to do something, like I want you to sing, yo quiero que tú cantes. I put it in the subjunctive. It's something I want. It's something I desire. Here, there's something I'm requesting. Yo pido que tú cantes. All right. I request that you sing. There's, again, querer is kind of like pedir, to request, ask for, want. You're going to use in your second clause, you're going to use the subjunctive. Quiero que lleguen. So the verb is llegar. We're going to have an en ending. We want them to arrive early tomorrow. Okay, I'm sorry. I want them. Yo quiero que lleguen. I want them to arrive early tomorrow. And then whenever you have like these sentences, it is necessary that. Okay, it is necessary that. Es necesario que tu papá coma más fruta. So when you're trying to communicate a necessity, and you'll recognize these phrases on your exam, you will, in your secondary clause, you will use the subjunctive, okay? If those were, if otherwise, you could just use your present tense, okay? But these expressions above trigger the use of the subjunctive in that second clause after K, because they convey recommendation, a piece of advice, or desire. And then here's an example where you can use decir que. The doctor tells me to do something. So he's recommending that I do something. I'm going to use what? The subjunctive. So los médicos dicen que tomes the mucho chocolate. So the doctors tell you for whatever reason to drink a lot of chocolate. When they're making a recommendation, and they're actually saying that you need to do it, you will use the subjunctive. Now they used another sentence here where it just says the doctors just said that that you are drinking a lot of chocolate. They're just making an observation that you drink a lot of chocolate. They're not telling you to do it. So now we use the what? The present tense. So you can take a look at that. All right, let me see if there's anything. So they, again, go through these exercises. They show you when to use the present subjunctive as opposed just to the simple present tense. All right. I showed you how to conjugate in the present subjunctive. I've showed you the clauses and times to use it. Here's more practice. Okay. All right. All right. So again, if you use quiero, you're going to use the present subjunctive. If we look at this activity here in A, if you use pienso, you would not use a subjunctive after it. If you just think that Pepe is in the gym, yo pienso que Pepe está en el gimnasio. Perfect. But if I want Pepe to be in the gym, then it would be quiero que Pepe esté en el gimnasio. Do you see the difference? Let's look at the next one. Pensar does not imply any recommendation or anything. It's just an observation. So everything stays in the present tense. Pienso que Martina trabaja en San Jose. I believe or I think Martina works in San Jose. But if I want her to work there for whatever reason, she's my daughter and I want her to live close to me or something, or to work close to the home, I might say, and I live in San Jose, I might say, quiero que Martina trabaje. Okay, now it's not trabaja, but trabaje en San Jose. The next one with ganar. Pienso que gana Nadal. I believe that Nadal is winning, but if I use querer, it would be quiero que gane Nadal. Now I have to put it in the subjunctive, and here it's in the subjunctive. Okay, so I go through some of these exercises, and I think it will convey to you. Here is another set of exercises. Let's take a look at this. Number C, in letter C, lo que dice la gente, what the people say. Mi mamá siempre me está diciendo. So my mother is always telling me. Here's the present progressive tense with an object pronoun. Look at where they put it. You always put your object pronouns before the conjugated verb. We could have also said, mi mamá siempre está diciendo me, because with the present progressive, we can also attach the object pronoun to the end of the ing or the present participle form of the verb. Okay, so my mother is always telling me, siempre me está diciendo que come más frutas. Now, in this case, it's going to be come, not coma. She's always telling, she's always recommending me to do it. So we have to put it in the subjunctive. Okay. Este artículo en el internet dice que Nadal juegue tenis. So the article on the internet says that Nadal plays tennis. It just says, dice, just states or mentions that he juega. We don't have to put it in the subjunctive form. Look at 3. Gloria dice que muchos estudiantes en su universidad nadan todos los días. And it's going to be nadan. She just says many students at her university swim every day. She's not recommending they do it. Okay. So the only recommending we've had so far with decir is not in number 1. Okay. So la maestra dice que escribimos o escribamos una carta. Again, now the teacher is telling dice que she's telling us what? To write a letter. So now it's a recommendation. So we're going to use the subjunctive. So we have to use escribamos. It is at A-M-O-S ending. It's an adverb. So in the subjunctive, it will have an A ending. Marcos dice que sus papás vivan en el Perú. Okay, there's no recommendation here at all. It's just a simple direct statement. So we use the regular present tense form of vivir. Marcos dice que sus papás viven just en el Perú. So make sure that you can do that exercise, that you understand it. It's very straightforward. And let's see. So I think your exam is fairly easy. You're going to be using the present progressive tense with object pronouns. You now know where to place them. You're going to be using the present perfect tense with object pronouns. You now know where to place them. You should be familiarizing yourself with the vocabulary surrounding sports and sports equipment and gear, and also the section on medicine and well-being. Just be familiar with it and be able to be familiar with those idiosyncratic ways of saying wishing somebody luck or a good day that we saw in comunicación. On this exam, there'll be a lot of short readings or some passages you'll have to listen to and short answer. I think it's very straightforward and fairly easy. Thank you. And that will be it for tonight.